Discover 7 spine-chilling secrets of the Cumberland Mountains. Bone-chilling tales exposed. The Cumberland Mountains whisper their secrets, and this time, they are screaming at Jane. As she returns to her Appalachian hometown, the once innocent woods, filled with laughter from her childhood, now hold a weight that leaves an unsettling chill in the air. What is it that prowls the shadows? Misty forms are said to glide between the trees like restless spirits, and disembodied voices echo through the hills at night, slinking through darkness and whispering names that send shivers down spines. Even the livestock seem uneasy. One by one, they vanish without a trace, leaving only an eerie silence behind. With autumn settling in, colors shift to fiery reds and golds. But the warm hues do nothing to warm Jane's heart. They only remind her of the joy she once found exploring these trails with her friends. Now, nostalgia mingles with anxiety. Something is terribly wrong in this place she loves dearly. As she navigates the winding roads back to familiar sights, the random shout of a crow rips her from her reverie, a reminder that nature is still alive, or perhaps more alive than before. Reports of strange occurrences swirl through town. A husband swears he saw shadowy figures moving through the hollow. An old woman speaks of the man in the woods, said to guard hidden truths that may corrupt the innocent and challenge the chosen. Jane's heart races as she hears it all. Could this be mere folklore? Or is it something more sinister awakened from a long-forgotten sleep? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jane dives into town folklore, unraveling tales of a long-dead politician whose greed may have awakened a curse. Each revelation layers a growing tension in the town filled with stubborn individualism. Memories stir as she gathers her childhood friends, a ragtag group of resilient souls who refuse to let fear dictate their lives. They huddle together after dark, sharing their fears, accusations sparking between them, a unified front beginning to form, but cracks are evident. The town hall meeting feels electric, brewing with confrontations and paranoia. Jane stands before her community, pleading for unity. We can't let this evil take us. Her voice echoes with impassioned conviction, but doubt hangs thick in the air. Just as the crowd's murmurs transform into shouts, a blackout engulfs them in darkness. Gasps ripple through the assembly, and silence swaps places with frantic whispers. Shadows swirl outside, ducking between trees, blending folklore and reality into a horror so palpable it becomes suffocating. Jane feels a lump rise in her throat. The elders murmur tales about treasures hidden in blood should one dare to seek the truth. What they hide may crush their small-town fabric. Is ignorance bliss, or is knowledge power? The search for the truth calls to Jane, its siren call echoing through the deep woods. She pauses, breath held captive by the weight of their shared history. Risk hangs in the air like danger from the mountains, whispering to her as she stands at the precipice of a dark adventure, with lingering questions echoing in the back of her mind. She is drawn deeper and deeper into the woods, each step awakening something ancient. Will she find the strength to confront the darkness that threatens her home? Or will the chilling specters of the Cumberland Mountains consume them all? The dim glow of Jane's flashlight flickered among the trees, pulsing as if afraid, spotlighting the secrets hidden beneath the canopies. Each crack of a twig underfoot sounded like thunder in the suffocating quiet. She clutched her friends tight, their faces ghostly in the pale light. They moved as one, a group bound by fear, yet united by an unbreakable resolve. Do you hear that? Tommy's voice was a nervous whisper, barely above the wind. Eyes darting, he trained his gaze toward the dense brush where shadows danced like living things. Jane's heart thundered in her chest as she strained to listen. A low growl drifted through the air, as if the forest itself exhaled. It prickled the skin at the nape of her neck. We need to keep moving, she urged, nudging the group along. They had to confront whatever it was that haunted these woods. As they pressed deeper, The stories swirled in Jane's mind. Tales of the politician who greedily siphoned the land, of the laborers who disappeared without a word. They were the ghosts she felt brushing against her, fingers curling through branches and fog, pulling her back into the past. Each step forward felt like trespassing on a grave. The trees began to thin, opening into a clearing that felt unsettlingly out of place in the wild. The ground was patterned with stones arranged in a circle, each inscribed with strange symbols. "What is this?" Jessie gasped, stepping into the eerie ring of rocks. The air pulsed with energy, and Jane could feel it beneath her feet. "I think this is the ritual site," Jane said, her voice trembling. "The townsfolk must have used it to shoo." Tommy interrupted. His eyes widened, pointing toward the tree-line where shadows formed humanoid shapes. They stood perfectly still, watching. Jane's grip tightened around the cold metal of her flashlight. Sensing power shifted in the air. "What do you want?" Jane shouted, her voice wavering. "Show yourself." But the figures didn't answer. Instead, they began to move, swaying slightly as if caught in a breeze. A guttural sound, half scream and half wail, rose from somewhere deep within the woods. The noise slashed through the stillness, electrifying the air and sending a wave of dread cascading over Jane. Jessie's breaths grew quick, eyes darting. "We have to get out of here." "No, wait," Jane breathed, feeling something draw deep from the ground, a desire to unveil the truth. "We need to uncover what is happening. We can't just run away." But as she spoke, a figure stepped forward from the shadows, a man draped in tattered clothes, his face shrouded in darkness, eyes glowing thinly like dying embers. "You seek the truth, girl?" he rasped, his voice a blend of reality and nightmare, each word curling around them like smoke. "Truth comes at a price." Jane felt her heart slip into her stomach. The price? Was it worth what they would unravel? Before she could react, the air thickened, a palpable wave of dread crashing over the clearing like a storm rising from the depths. The man grinned, and in that moment, she saw behind him the gathered shadows all staring at her, as if waiting for a command. What had she awakened in the depths of the Cumberland Mountains? The ground trembled, and Jane faced the group, muscles tensing under the weight of realization. "We need to decide," she said, voice ground against fear and curiosity. "Are we confronting the truth, no matter the cost?" As a silence enveloped them, the shadows whispered, enticing yet foreboding. Would they dare to delve further down the rabbit hole, or would they choose to flee before it was too late? The choice loomed before them like a haunting specter, and the mountains seemed to rustle with anticipation, an ominous reminder that in the face of darkness, the ultimate question remained: how much were they willing to sacrifice? The wind howled, carrying a mournful whisper that slithered into their ears, wrapping around their resolve. "What price?" Jane managed to ask, her voice strangled with uncertainty, the pulse of fear thrumming in her veins. The man stepped closer, features shifting like shadows caught in a waking nightmare. "You'll find the truth, but it will not come cheap, girl." His grin widened, exposing teeth as jagged as the branches overhead. Each breath felt tight in Jane's chest as she scanned the faces of her friends' uncertainty, reflected back at her like a dark mirror. "Let us just run," Jessie pleaded, holding onto Tommy's arm as if it were a lifeline. "This is crazy." "No," Jane snapped, frustration bubbling to the surface. "If we leave now, everything we've heard, everything we've felt will remain in these woods. We owe it to those who disappeared to understand." "But what if we're next?" Tommy whispered, his pale face drenched in fear, shaking his head. "What if we can't get out?" The shadows quivered as if feeding off their dread. The air buzzed, thick and electric like a storm about to break. Jane's grip on the flashlight faltered. The beam flickered as her resolve wavered. "Listen," the man commanded, his voice rising above the wind. "What you seek is buried in blood and horror. The stories devoured upon these stones. Dare you walk the path?" Before anyone could respond, the ground shook violently, a tremor that stirred ancient dust in swirling spirals. The sacred ring of stones glowed faintly, emanating a heat that soaked through Jane's shoes, igniting a deep, gnawing fear. The The symbols on the stones writhed eerily as if they were alive, pulling the group's attention. Then, in a moment of clarity, Jane stepped forward. "What's the truth?" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Tell us what we need to know." As soon as she spoke, the shadows gelled into a mass, forming a swirling vortex that beckoned her with promises sweet and sinister. Each shift of the air whispered fragments of lost voices. "Long ago, the powerful took what did not belong to them," the man replied, his voice now an echo that resonated deep in her bones. "They silenced those who stood against them. But in the darkness, the spirits linger, waiting. Always waiting." An icy shiver coursed through Jane. The tales were true. The forest was alive with those who had been wronged, their souls trapped in eternal limbo. "And now?" she pressed. "What do we have to do?" A sudden roar roared through the trees, drowning her voice. Branches scraped against each other, their cries joining the echoes of despair that seemed to envelop the clearing. A sensation gripped her throat, a warning that she should turn back. But something inside Jane screamed that she couldn't run. The truth lay just a heartbeat away. At a flicker of movement caught her eye. The shadows morphed, coalescing into distinct shapes, faces twisted in anguish, eyes pleading for release. They stared at her, imploring her to understand their pain. "You want the truth," the shadowed man hissed. "But are you ready for the sacrifice? To know is to give, and the forest demands something in return." Tommy's shaky breath punctuated the silence, and Jesse squeezed his hand tighter. We can't give them anything," she stammered. "Or we may never leave," Jane whispered, her heart pounding. She could feel it now, the weight of the decision hanging in the air, thick and suffocating. The forest held its breath, shadows swallowing light, and Jane could sense it. Whatever was hidden in the underbrush was waking up. The shadows shifted closer, their presence undeniable, their demands lingering. A sudden urge surged within her, a pull toward the sacrificial nature of the truth. Would they find the answers they sought, or would they become a part of the forest's dark history? Together Jane breathed, fastening her gaze on the gathering shadows. "We'll face whatever it takes." But even as she spoke those words, the earth lurched beneath them again, and the clearing twisted around her. Time stopped as the dark forms started to close in. What would she have to give up to uncover the truth? In that moment, the forest answered with a somber hum, warning them that time was running out. The darkness pulled tighter. Would they be able to uncover the secrets, or would they be lost to the depths of the Cumberland Mountains forever? In that breathless second, one question echoed louder than the others: what would be their ultimate sacrifice? The darkness thickened, wrapping around them like a shroud as the shadows pressed closer, their faces contorted in anguish and desire. Jane felt the heat from the stones increasing, radiating a palpable energy that tugged at something deep within her. Her heart raced wildly, and she turned to her friends, eyes wide. "What do we do?" Jesse's voice was barely a whisper, tinged with panic. "We stand together," Jane replied, her voice shaky but determined. "We'll face this together." The man, a figure swaying between reality and nightmare, raised a hand. In it glimmered a silver pendant, its surface etched with the same cryptic symbols that adorned the stones. "The forest demands an offering, a bond of sacrifice. Only then can the truth be revealed." "What does that even mean?" Tommy shouted, breaking free of the clutches of fear for a moment. "What do we have to give?" "Your honesty, your truths," the man crooned, stepping forward, his grin widening. "What you hold closest to your hearts." Jane felt a chill crawl down her spine. She could see her friends getting fidgety, the tension swelling. "We can't just give them anything," Jessie gasped, her voice rising again as the shadows pulled away at her insecurities, whispering dark secrets from long ago. "Your fears are what they seek." The man cackled. "Let them spill forth. It's the only way." The forest watches, hungry for release. With every passing heartbeat, the shadows seemed to amplify their torment. The faces flared to life. Emotions poured from them: loss, betrayal, an endless longing to be acknowledged. Jane took a deep breath, her lungs heavy with unshared fears. "Look," Jane said, forcing herself to sound resolute. We can't let this place consume us. We have to break this cycle. Break it how? Tommy asked, panic threading through his voice. By telling them our secrets? You cannot be serious. But what if that's how we break their chains? Jane insisted, her resolve swelling as the wind howled around them. What if by confronting our own truths we can set them free? Slowly, Jessie's hand fell from Tommy's grip. I can't even begin, she shook her head, taking a hesitant step back. They'll laugh at us. Jane reached for her, feeling the warmth of friendship flicker like a flame. We have to do this, all of us. One by one, the shadows shifted, restless in their need for absolution, seeking answers through the confessions they craved. I was always scared I would be forgotten, Jane said, her voice soft but growing in strength. That I wouldn't matter enough to anyone. The shadows paused, shifting slightly. The forest seemed to lean in closer, listening. I once betrayed a friend and the weight of it still haunts me, Tommy admitted, stepping forward, a brave tear glistening in the flickering light. As they began to share, something stirred around them, a pulse within the darkness. Each confession seemed to drive the shadows back, inching away as if the weight of their own pain was echoed in the truths released. Jessie's breath hitched as memories unlocked her own lingering self-doubt, bubbling to the surface in jagged shards. But as each truth emerged, the man's expression morphed into a grimace. No, this is not what I asked. His voice dipped into something monstrous, weaving with the very shadows that had brought them here. This is merely part of the price. You must give more. The ground trembled again, shifting underfoot, and the clearing screamed with a fury that stopped time. Raw fear filled Jane's chest once more. I can't do this, she wailed, clutching the flashlight as if it were her only lifeline. The shadows surged forward with renewed desperation, ready to devour whatever they needed to save their own spirits. What new price would they have to pay? Would the truth they unearthed free them, or seal their fate within the cursed heart of the forest? In that moment of uncertainty, Jane caught a glimpse of a figure in the darkness, a familiar face twisted in sorrow. It hung back, just beyond the shadows. Who was it? Why did they look so eerily familiar? The realization hit her like a gust of cold wind. Someone they knew was tied to this dark fate. Was it possible that one of them was destined to unravel the forest's curse? Or would they all fall victim to its wrath? The shadows pulsed like a living thing, hungry and poised to pounce. Jane's heart raced, thundering in tandem with the heavy, oppressive air around them. Who are you? She managed to stammer, her voice trembling beneath the weight of fear. The figure stepped forward into a sliver of moonlight, revealing a face that struck deep within her, a distorted reflection of her own. It was a younger version of herself, eyes wide with longing but shaded by pain. You must remember, Jane. We all have something to lose. Stay back, Jessie screamed, backing away further, her body a taut string ready to snap. The shadows blinked at her fear, reacting like a predator sensing weakness. No, you need to listen, the figure cried, desperation spilling between them. The forest thrives on your sorrow. Only when you remember what brought you here can you gain the power to break free. I don't have time for this. Jane felt an urgent pull, an invisible thread connecting her to the younger version of herself. What do you want from me? I want you to confront what you've buried. The echo of her youthful self's voice layered upon each other sent a shiver down Jane's spine. It was a blend of anger, sadness, and an earnest plea. You stepped foot here because you were trying to escape your truth. You tried to forget me. The shadows flickered, muttering as if caught up in the complexities of their pain. Tommy gripped Jessie's arm, his eyes darting between the figure and their surroundings, panic crystallizing in his features. This isn't real. It can't be. But deep down, a thread of recognition wove itself into Jane's core. You're me? She whispered, choking on the words. You're part of me? Exactly. You can't ignore your past. The figure shook her head, tears pooling in her eyes. There's a reason we're here. Break the chains or be chained forever. The urgency of the forest thrummed through the ground again. What do we have to do? Tommy asked, voice quivering. Sacrifice what you fear the most. The figure screamed, her form flickering. Release the darkest inside you. Face it. You'll never find freedom without truth. A cacophony of whispers erupted, pressing against the friends like a wave. They faltered, trapped between the weight of their insecurities and the desperation of the shadows pulling them further into darkness. Jane, trust me, Jessie pleaded, voice breaking. You don't have to go down this road alone. Whatever it is, we can face it together. I don't even know what I need to confront, Jane yelled, feeling lost in chaos. Your past, Jane, the figure shouted, eyes ablaze with intensity. The time you chose to hide instead of fight. The moments you thought you were worthless. A sudden image flashed through Jane's mind, a time when she was a child, standing in front of the mirror. A lonely girl who felt invisible, painfully aware of being overlooked. The shadows pulsed, as if the forest itself fed on that energy. Tommy stepped closer, his voice a soft anchor. We can do this. All of us. Together. As the four friends huddled together, Jane could feel their collective fears hardening like a shield against the darkness. But still, the weight of her buried secrets threatened to overwhelm her. What will we have to sacrifice? She murmured, feeling the shadows tighten around them, a tangled web ready to ensnare. Everything, the figure whispered, a hint of resignation in her tone. You must face your deepest truth. Only then can you be set free. The shadows hissed in disdain, the air growing thick with dread. The ground beneath them rumbled, and Jane felt the entire forest hold its breath, waiting for what would come next. Could they truly face what lay buried deep inside? Or would this dark offering bind them forever to the forest's eerie grasp? The shadows pulsated loudly, an unsettling rhythm that mirrored Jane's racing heart. She gripped Jessie's hand, their fingers intertwined, the warmth a tether to reality. Confusion twisted in her gut. What does it mean to face my truth? The figure's expression shifted to one of agonizing urgency. You already know. You just have to dig deeper. Remember the girl in the mirror? The one who thought she was invisible? That girl is still a part of you. Tommy's breath hitched. What if we lose you? He whispered, eyes darting between Jane and the younger version of herself, torn between fear and hope. We won't lose her, Jessie insisted, her voice slicing through the mounting dread. Jane needs this. We all do. A tremor ran through the earth again, and Jane felt the shadows close in tighter. They were absorbing her fear, feeding off it. She could sense the desperation of the forest, the roots intertwining beneath them like grasping hands. I can't, Jane shouted, the words bursting from her in an emotional outburst. What if confronting my past just makes everything worse? Or it could set you free, the figure replied, her youthful voice laden with ethereal power. You will find strength in what you face, but you must choose to confront it. In that fraught moment, memories flooded Jane's mind, the whispers behind her back in school, the isolation she felt in a crowded room, the times she silenced her own voice because she felt unworthy. Each recollection electrified her with shame, intertwining with the shadows that yearned for her acceptance of that pain. Do you trust us? Jessie implored, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Jane took a breath, grounding herself in the present. I don't know, but I don't want to be the scared little girl anymore. Then stand with us, Tommy declared. Whatever it takes. As if uniting with their shared resolve, the shadows swirled around them, dark tendrils curling with malicious intent. You think you can just walk away from your fear? They hissed, an ominous chorus growing louder. Stand firm, Jessie cried out, raising her free hand with defiance. The forest echoed her voice, seemingly taken aback by their unity. The figure before Jane shimmered, her features brightening as a gentle light emanated from them. Your past is not your prison, Jane. It's a part of your story. Release it, embrace the sorrow, but don't let it consume you. Fighting against an unseen force tugging her backward, Jane called upon her friends. I'm ready. Let us do this together. As they focused on the figure, she began to dissolve into the shadows, intertwining their forms into one ineffably powerful source. Jane could sense the air shifting, colliding with energy coursing through her. She felt her childhood fears surge, dark and gusty, but the fire in her friend's eyes ignited something deep within her. And just as the shadows lunged forward with frenzied aggression, Jane screamed, "I see you! I see all of you!" A wave of blinding white light erupted from the heart of their connection, splintering the shadows and forcing them back. But as Jane's voice echoed through the eerie silence, doubt crept back in. Had they merely distracted the darkness, or could they truly break through it? The light flickered, casting long shadows behind them, ominous reminders of the truth still lurking in the corners of Jane's mind. What if we can't fully escape? She wondered, fear creeping back. And as a gust of chilled wind whipped through the trees, a menacing laugh echoed around them, chilling Jane to her core. Would they conquer the shadows, or would those echoes of pain return to claim her once again? The path to freedom lay ahead, but the uncertainty ignited a new fear within her heart. Could they push through the darkness before it consumed them all? The blinding light pulsed like a heartbeat, momentarily holding the shadows at bay. Jane's chest tightened as the darkness slithered away, whispering taunts that echoed through the forest. "You think you're free? This is just the beginning." The shadows morphed and danced, teasing her with memories that clawed at her soul. The figure that had merged with them faded, leaving Jane feeling hollow. "I thought facing my past would be different," she murmured, her voice quivering like a leaf in the wind. "Let us keep moving," Tommy urged, glancing nervously at the encroaching shadows. Their once solid unity felt fragile now, like glass teetering on the brink of shattering. Shadows coiled around tree trunks, drawing closer, hungry for another taste of fear. "Where do we go?" Jessie's eyes flitted, searching for a way out. "Forward," Jane asserted, trying to sound confident. She didn't want to show her fear, but doubt smothered her resolve. What if running only led them deeper into the darkness? "We have to find a way to confront the source. Maybe that's how to truly break free." Tommy nodded, determination sparking in his deep-set eyes. "Whatever it is, I'm with you." Together, they forged ahead, the ground beneath them trembling as if the earth itself was resisting their progress. The laughter of the shadows twisted through the trees, wrapping around them like a chilling breeze. They hissed in unison, a cacophony of despair that scraped against Jane's resolve. "Don't listen," Jessie shouted, her voice trembling but fierce. "We can do this." As they pushed forward, the shadows began to warp, forming shapes that mirrored Jane's fears. Ghostly figures emerged, schoolmates she'd once felt invisible among, flickering like movie frames caught in a glitch. The murmurs started softly but rose to a deafening crescendo. "What's wrong with you?" A cruel voice echoed from the shadows, mocking her as vibrant flashes of her past filled the air. Those moments of laughter alongside moments of betrayal. "Why don't you just disappear?" The words struck her like ice. Jane stumbled, her heart a heavy stone in her chest. "Stop!" she exclaimed, shaking her head as if she could physically cast their voices away. "I'm not that girl anymore." With every step, she felt a shifting within herself, a growing resolve that fractured the chains holding her back. "I am more than my past." The declaration surged from deep within her, weaving through the fingers of shadows that writhed with discontent. "Prove it," they hissed, momentum shifting violently as they lunged toward her, a dark wave crashing down. Time slowed. Jane's breath caught in her throat, muscles coiling tightly as she steadied herself, the tide of the moment shifting. With a fierce snarl of determination, she held Jessie's hand tighter. "We control this," Jane declared, channeling every ounce of strength. "Our past doesn't define us." Crimson light flared from their connection, igniting the ground beneath them. The shadows recoiled, screeching in agony as they shrank back, momentarily blinded. They had struck a nerve, and now was their chance to push past the darkness. "We can do this together," Jessie yelled, her voice unwavering, fueling the fire in Jane's heart. Pushing through the blinding fear, Jane forged ahead, gripping Jessie and Tommy's hands. They had to move fast. "Find the core. We need to release the energy." As they advanced deeper into the shadows, a pulsating weight pressed against them. The shadows were still swirling, but cracks of light began to emerge ahead, illuminating a path that seemed almost otherworldly. What lay beyond was a landscape that felt unfamiliar yet enticing. But with every passing moment, doubt crept back in, the shadows whispering reminders of failure, of the scars that lingered. What if you can't let go? Just then, a violent rumble shook the ground beneath them, and a fissure opened, dark and gaping. "Hold on," Tommy shouted, but the fractured earth teetered as they stumbled, uncertainty rising like bile in Janus' throat. Was this the moment they'd been searching for? Or would they fall? With the shadows closing in, they braced themselves, hearts pounding. The fate of their journey stood trembling on the precipice. Could they confront the core of their darkest fears? Or would they be swallowed whole? The ground cracked wide beneath them, and for a heartbeat, Jane felt suspended in a time that held its breath. The shadows swirled violently, tendrils reaching out with a chilling hunger, nearly grazing her skin. She could see it now, a gaping maw of darkness just a few feet away, the abyss threatening to pull them in, to consume everything they fought for. "Keep moving," Tommy shouted, his voice slicing through the chaotic chorus of fear and trepidation. He yanked Jane and Jessie, all three tumbling forward together as they barely avoided the hungry shadow's grasp. But as they surged onward, a ferocious wind whipped around them, sending leaves scattering like frightened ghosts. The lights that flickered before their eyes flickered even more intensely, revealing a strange, distorted realm beyond the crack, a landscape that pulsed with energy, alternating between stark white and shadowy tendrils. "What is that?" Jessie whispered, her voice trembling with both awe and terror. Jane squinted through the chaos, trying to decipher the source of the light amidst the ominous dark. "It feels alive," Tommy murmured, gripping Janus' arm, his eyes wide in terror. "Like it's watching us. Then let us give it a reason to fear us," Jane yelled, fueled by a fire she thought was long extinguished. She surged forward, her legs pumping, drawing strength from the growing pulse of light. The shadows writhed behind them, fuming against the onslaught of Janus' determination. "Stay together," Jessie shouted, breaking into a run beside Jane, urging her on. But with every step, the pulling sensation at their heels became more palpable, more insistent. There was something intoxicating about the light ahead, yet so terrifyingly tainted by the darkness that chased them. As they barreled towards the radiant glow, Jane felt a sudden jolt of clarity. The whispers from the shadows shaped themselves into familiar voices, her parents, her teachers, friends who had abandoned her. "You're not enough," a chorus rose, drowning out her confidence, poking at wounds she thought had healed. "I won't let you win," Jane shouted, pure fury igniting her resolve. "We're not afraid of you." Suddenly, an explosion of light erupted from their combined hands, sending a shockwave that sprinkled the air with vibrant sparks. The shadows shrieked, recoiling in a swirl of black mist that vanished into the dark corners of the forest. The light pushed forward, illuminating the path and revealing a swirling vortex at the heart of the luminous space, beckoning them with an almost serene hum. "Look," Jessie pointed, her eyes wide. "It's beautiful." Amidst the ominous dark, a serpentine figure flickered at the heart of the light, a shimmering silhouette that seemed to radiate warmth. It exuded the sensation of familiarity and peace, yet an edge of trepidation whispered warnings in Janus' mind. "Is that the source?" Tommy questioned, his voice shaky. "Can we trust it?" The warm glow felt welcoming, yet a shadow flicked at the edge of Janus' vision. "No, again," she whispered, recognizing the cycle of deceit and fear. Trust could lead to betrayal, but turning away could lead to despair. So many questions twisted inside her, threatening to engulf her in indecision. Do we step forward or pull back? As the shadows whispered assurances of safety, coaxing her to listen, Jane hesitated, caught between two forces, the comforting light of their potential and the suffocating embrace of their past. In that instant, a fierce clarity washed over her. To conquer this nightmare, she needed to expose her heart's true desire. "Together," she shouted, pulling Jessie and Tommy close. "Whatever happens, we do this as one." With a deep breath, They locked onto the light, plunging forward as the shadows screamed their discontent. As the brightness enveloped them, Jane felt a renewed determination swell. But the darkness gave one last, desperate lash at their heels, whispering venom before being consumed entirely. Will we be forged anew in that light, she pondered, heart racing as they dove deeper. Or would they be lost to the shadows forever? The moment they crossed the threshold, a rush of light swallowed them whole. It was like stepping into the sun after living in a shadowed cave. But the warmth came with a price. An unsettling tension filled the air, making Jane's skin prickle with an unspeakable fear. Around them, the world morphed. The bright light flickered, revealing a vast expanse that felt both alien and eerily familiar. The ground beneath was soft, almost like cotton, and hummed gently, alive with a rhythmic pulse that seemed to sync with their heartbeats. Where are we? Jessie whispered, her eyes darting, taking in a vibrant sky tinged with strange hues of crimson and violet. I don't know, but something's off, Tommy replied, glancing over his shoulder as if the shadows were still hot on their trail. The swirl of darkness from moments before morphed into something insidious, a lingering sense of dread that refused to loosen its grip on their throats. Maybe we can, Jane started, but before she could finish, something slithered from the edges of the light, latching onto her thoughts. Whispers, soft yet insistent, encased her mind. You're here to prove yourself, to fight your fears. Fight? She echoed, her voice barely a whisper. Panic surged within her as the whispers intensified, each word piercing through the veil of hope that had briefly enveloped them. The shimmering figure she had glimpsed earlier coalesced into view, a translucent being with eyes like burning embers staring straight into her soul. It hovered, waiting. Do you know what you truly want, Jane? It asked, its voice a blend of melody and echo. Jane shivered, every instinct screaming that something was very wrong. I want to be free. There was a rawness in her voice, a vulnerability that cut to the core. Then you must face the shadow within you. With that, the entity extended its hand, revealing a swirling mass of colors engulfed in darkness. Your greatest fears reside here, it continued, and only through confrontation can you find your path. As the entity pulled back its hand, Jane felt the world shift again. A doorway materialized, shaped like a gaping mouth. Within it lay her fears, the very essence of her past mistakes and traumas. No, Jessie cried, stepping forward, but a gust of wind halted her, leaving her frozen in place. We can't. It's too dangerous. Jane felt the pressure build, a swell of emotions threatening to engulf her. She could feel the weight of her fears, heavy and suffocating, lurking just beyond the threshold. I can't go in there. I can't. You must, the figure implored, its amber eyes locked onto hers. You'll never be free if you don't face them head-on. Tears pricked at Jane's eyes. She felt the shadows at her back, whispering sweet lies of despair. You're not enough, they hissed like venomous snakes. But deep down, a flicker of defiance sparked. I've come this far. I won't be scared anymore. Before she could second-guess herself, she stepped forward, guided by a ferocity that eclipsed her fear. Just as she crossed the threshold, a surge of fright washed over her, but it was mixed with a fierce determination. Suddenly, she was plunged into her memory's moments of failure, abandonment, shame. They swirled around her like storm clouds, crashing over her and pulling her under. Each wave stung worse than the last, clawing at her heart. Yet, something stronger surged within her, a light she had carried all along. Stand with me, she screamed, pulling Jessie and Tommy into the vortex of her memories. We're doing this together. As they collided with her fears, the shadows shrieked, a sound so chilling it felt like ice grating against her bones. The world around them started to fracture, the togetherness forging a bond that this realm had never seen. But would their unity melt the dark ice of her past, or would each fear only summon more from the depths of their worst nightmares? Before the answer could reveal itself, the entire landscape began to tremble, and the shadows coiled closer. Fight, Jane! Fight! Tommy cried, his voice drowned by the chaos rising around them. And just like that, the darkness lunged, sharpening its fangs as it bore down on them. What lay ahead felt uncertain, but their resolve had never burned brighter. The trembling ground beneath Jane's feet didn't relent, its rumbling a desperate reminder of the shadows closing in as they plunged deeper into the fierce swirl of memories. Yet, amidst the chaos, Jane felt her friend's warmth join hers, a beacon in the shadowy abyss. "We're in this together," she shouted, her voice slicing through the turbulence. Suddenly, they found themselves standing in a familiar, dimly lit room, their childhood hangout filled with laughter and light. It felt almost like a sanctuary, but there was something deeply wrong. The echoes of past arguments, laughter lost, and words left unsaid clung to the walls like ghosts. Jane felt her heart race. This is where it started, where everything fell apart. The whispers around them swelled, voices intertwining into a clamor of accusations and fears. "You're not enough," they hissed, taunting her past insecurities. She stumbled, nearly faltering under the weight of their judgment, feeling every ounce of her bottled pain surge to the surface. "No," she pressed her hands to her ears, but the whispers only grew louder, wrapping around her like a noose. "You think you can run away?" The shadows sneered, morphing into shadowy figures of her childhood friends, their faces twisted in mockery. "You're a coward, Jane. Always have been." "Stop it," Jessie cried, the sound of her voice fierce and unwavering. "This isn't real. You're stronger than this." Jessie stepped forward, pulling Jane back from the edge of despair. With Tommy close at her side, they formed a protective barrier against the encroaching darkness. "Remember who you are," Tommy shouted, his gaze meeting Jane's with fierce determination. "We're not defined by our past mistakes. We stand here together, in this moment." The shadows recoiled at his words, hesitating just long enough for Jane to reclaim her breath. "We're not afraid," Jane declared, pushing forward with renewed energy, powerful memories of love and laughter flickering in her mind. She could see their faces in the brightness of the light, friends who still loved her, moments that filled her with joy. With each step, Jane felt an ember ignite within her, radiating warmth that clashed with the cold darkness lurking all around. "You think you own me?" she shouted into the void. "You can't control who I am anymore." The shadows writhed in anger, their shapes flickering like candles in a storm. Taking a deep breath, Jane dug deep into her heart, grounding herself in the strength of her friends and the love she had for them. "I will not be a prisoner of my past," she proclaimed, her voice unwavering and strong. "We will release the pain and embrace who we've become." Together, Jane, Jessie, and Tommy took a collective step forward, channeling everything they had into one defiant push. The shadows quivered, struggling against a force greater than fear. As Jane shouted her truth, laughter and tears converged, celebrating every heartache, every moment of resilience, amplifying the brilliance of their bond. With one final roar, Jane unleashed a stream of light that burst forth from within, engulfing the shadows, pushing them back, tearing through the fabric of their haunting memories. "I am enough," she bellowed, as the blinding luminescence shattered the darkness completely. The forest erupted around them, shadows retreating in chaos, voices silenced by an unwavering power that surged from their unity. Radiant colors filled the air, illuminating every corner of the night, dispelling the gloom that had shrouded the mountains for too long. As the light began to fade, Jane gasped for breath, her heart thundering as she looked around. The darkness was gone, banished to the corners of her memory where it could no longer hurt her or her loved ones. "We did it," she murmured, the weight lifting from her spirit, a warm glow remaining in her chest. Yet as the forest quieted, a wave of calm washed over them. The ground felt solid beneath their feet once more. They exchanged glances, tears of relief mixing with laughter as the first rays of dawn broke through the trees. "Did we really do it?" Jessie whispered, awe-stricken. With a nod, Jane smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude for her friends. "We faced our fears together. I think that's what truly sets us free." The conversation drifted into a soft murmur as they walked back, exchanging stories of their childhood, creating new memories to fill the vacant space left by the shadows. They looked up at the mountains that had once seemed so ominous, but now, they towered over them as guardians watching over their rightful place. Together, they knew they could overcome anything, and as they stepped into the light, a renewed sense of purpose surged within them, a promise to embrace not just the darkness, but the radiant journeys ahead, hand in hand. This was the moment of awakening. Their true stories were only just beginning. But now, this is your moment to connect with us. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await you. Smash that like button now, feed the algorithm, and show your support for our journey. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. Let us hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Every click, every share, counts.